There's so much Real Housewives news right now, from Real Housewives of Miami being paused or canceled. It's a lot happening with Beverly Hills. I need to talk about Marlo and Tyler Perry, and I want to talk about Atlanta in the new season and my theory about how Nene relates with this new season. So let's start with Miami. I have really enjoyed Miami since they rebooted. I have enjoyed the reboot way better than the original. Season 5 of Miami was a perfect season. Like that season with Elisa finding out about Lenny, the Black Amex episode, that season was so good for me. The women were hitting on all cylinders. And the seasons after were good. 6 was better than 7. 7 was rough for me because I did not like how they were treating Gertie. As a Black woman, I do not like to watch these shows where Black women are being mistreated. And I can admit I'm hypersensitive when it's a Black woman being mistreated by non-Black women. Now, I made a video about this on TikTok. Gertie was not likable. She can be annoying. I understood some of their issues with her, but it did feel like a Palin session. Regardless, I still enjoyed season 7. But the show has always struggled in ratings. Real Housewives of Miami has always been a show that people online and through social media have always liked a lot. It's always gotten a lot of fanfare, especially compared to a show like Beverly Hills, but it never had great ratings. I think there's 2 reasons. I think the audience wasn't as tapped in or connected with them as other shows, which is unfortunate. I don't know why they never attracted a diehard dedicated audience the way that they should have, but I also felt like Bravo did not do enough to promote them, especially with this last season. So with this last season, the biggest thing that stood out to me is they didn't have any Miami Housewives on Watch What Happens Live the week they premiered. So the show last season premiered in June 2025. They had Housewives from Miami come on week 2 of the premiere, but normally you're gonna have a Miami housewife on the first week when the show premieres. It's like a big fanfare. You want to promote the show. I felt like Bravo did not promote Miami the way that they should have, especially the way they promoted other shows. They already had an uphill battle because Miami, you kind of need to treat it as if it's a new show. Even though it was a reboot, they needed to treat it like a new show and promote it that way to get people interested and to get people invested in watching. So I do think there was an issue with the audience connecting with the show, but it was also the fact that Bravo just did not put as much promotional power behind it. They did try to give it a good lead in. So when it first started, I think it premiered on Wednesday nights, and I think they followed The Valley. The Valley was a very good show ratings wise, so it made sense to have them follow The Valley. Then The Valley ended, and I think they moved them to Thursday to follow Beverly Hills, which again is the top rated housewife show. So I get why they moved it. I did feel like it would again disrupt the audience that was watching, but they were trying to give Miami a chance. But it felt like Bravo did not embrace Miami the way that they should have. I wasn't super surprised about it being paused for 2 reasons. The first is they didn't have any Miami Housewives on the new Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Road Trip. That stood out to me. That felt like a big snub. And it made me think what's going to happen, because it seemed like they wanted representation from every show currently airing. Not having anyone, especially like Alexia, on this new series that's meant to represent most of the cities felt like, okay, something's up. In addition to the fact that they had not started filming for such a long time, I was not getting good vibes. I was already kind of worried about what's happening with this show. I think Todd's lawsuit was an issue. So Alexia's ex-husband, I think they are officially divorced. Her ex-husband sued Bravo and has blasted Bravo about the editing and how he's portrayed. He dropped the lawsuit, but that creates so many issues when your center housewife, her partner, is suing the network. It creates a legal minefield that's really hard to figure out when you're trying to cast and film this show. I think the second was they had an issue with casting, one related to Alexia. If you get rid of Alexia because of Todd's lawsuit, what do? Like, how do you fill in that cast? She's a big part of that cast. And then on top of that, I just think they were probably struggling to find the right cast given their budget. From what we know about housewives' pay, they're paid based off tenure. So this show, because it's still the same show, like Alexia, Marisol, Adriana, maybe even Larsa are still getting like a tenured housewife check, even though the show doesn't have the stature of a tenured show or the ratings of a more tenured show. So I also question if that was an issue where they're like, we cannot afford these tenured housewives considering the ratings that we're getting, and they're trying to go in a different direction. I do think the show is paused and not canceled. Andy said that online. I think they may do a soft reboot. Maybe it'll be in a year or two. I don't think the show is dead. I just think they're trying to figure out where do we go from here. And I could see Alexia not coming back for sure. And that may be the best thing for Miami moving forward is adjusting the cast. I always felt like the loss of Dr. Nicole was a huge loss to that show. Dr. Nicole was a great housewife. She gave what we wanted. It was the money, it was the luxury, it was the family. She has an interesting dynamic with her partner because they're not married and there's some weirdness there. There's questions about how her partner made his money. So there's potentially a scandal there. In addition to the fact that I thought Nicole was good at the housewife game. We saw her have some good moments with checking people or being shady towards people. And Nicole has hinted at she left the show because someone hired a private investigator to investigate her partner, Anthony. I, like a lot of people, believe she was talking about Marisol. This has been hinted at before from other ex-housewives that Marisol is always behind the scenes doing digging. She likes to keep her hands clean when they're filming, but she stirs up a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And I really hate if production lets someone like Nicole leave in favor of Marisol, who I do enjoy on the show, but does not bring as much as Nicole brings and doesn't have the longevity of Nicole. Nicole, we could get 10 great seasons out of Nicole, where Marisol has 3 or 4 maybe. It did not make sense if that was really what happened. So I felt like they already had some issues with how do you figure out the right cast, especially if you still have to work around people like Alexia and Marisol and even Adriana or Larsa. I do agree with a lot of people that it's a loss for the network and for the diversity. That show did have a lot of different cultures displayed, and I did enjoy that. Seeing the dynamics of the Miami cast and the different backgrounds, and even just Miami, the city as a backdrop. We don't have a ton of shows that are based in Miami, reality TV wise, so I will miss that. And I'm hoping that Bravo, when they bring the show back, still has that element that made the show great. It was the diversity, it was the enmeshment of different cultures and peoples and identities. Miami, similar to Dubai, that is also now paused or canceled, stands out as casts that were integrated from the beginning. For the most part, casts are all one race or they're all one identity. And then sometimes they slowly will integrate. So you see that when, Garcelle and Crystal joined Beverly Hills, you see that with Katie Janela joined OC. Whereas Salt Lake City, but to a greater extent, Miami were integrated from day one. Salt Lake City, we always had Mary Cosby. With the Miami reboot, you always had a lot of diversity in the cast. So it is sad that the two shows that have been introduced to us that way, which is Miami and Dubai, have gotten canceled. It's not a good look for the network that basically the only shows that really succeed are your shows that are essentially segregated with 1 to 2 minorities. It's a bad trend, but it is definitely a trend that's happening and I think will continue to happen. I am encouraged by seeing the diversity on shows like Summer House, where it's working, where it feels natural, where we have KJ, we have Mia, we have Sierra, where it doesn't feel like there's this awkwardness, even though they still have their struggles on that show. I hope the Housewives shows can continue to move into a space where they're able to balance diversity with still having a good show and a cast that makes sense, that would actually be friends and feels like they would be friends. I also get people's frustration with Miami being paused. The fact that New York has gotten 2 reboots at this point. They had a hard reboot with the new cast. They're getting a soft reboot now because that new cast wasn't working. It does feel like certain shows get more chances than others. I don't want to say it's about race. I think it's about city. Because so much of the media ecosystem exists in New York, New York will always be centered by Bravo. Bravo always wants New York to be their diamond. They always want New York to be top of the food chain. I think because a lot of the people at Bravo have personal ties to New York. It's just a pride thing where they just always expect New York to be the best. And if it's not New York, then it's Beverly Hills. I think because those women are seen as the wealthiest and they want the image of Housewives to be more Beverly Hills-esque, where I think those shows get a lot more grace than other shows. They're allowed to have worse ratings than other shows and get a reboot instead of being paused or canceled. But I do think Miami will get recast. I do not think it's canceled. I think that we'll see in a year or two it's going to get recasted and come back similar to New York. But I get the issue that it feels very imbalanced, the way that New York will get chance after chance to figure it out, but Miami does not get that. And when it comes to Miami, I can't talk enough about how good season 5 is. 6 was good too, but 5, oh my God, so many good moments. Like the drama, the humor, the interesting, the money. It was just one of the best Housewives seasons of all time from beginning to end. So it's crazy that this show is so good, yet has such low ratings and people are not gravitating towards it, which there's definitely a connection there with the issue that Miami has with ratings tied to the high ratings of Beverly Hills, which is a show that is the exact opposite in terms of action that you get and interesting storylines that you're getting. And I know a lot of people online have been talking about how is Miami being canceled and not Beverly Hills. The reality is Beverly Hills is still highly rated. There's a huge disconnect with the Bravo audience when it comes to what people say online about the shows and like what the ratings support. People have talked about Beverly Hills being boring now for probably 3 or 4 years, yet Beverly Hills, from all the information we have, is still the highest rated. Bravo does not release all of their streaming numbers. They still only release live ratings, but I would have no reason to believe Beverly Hills is still not the most streamed Housewives show too. So it baffles me, but I think it's a reminder that the internet is not real. The things people get online and say about Beverly Hills does not translate to the fandom. And even at BravoCon, the Beverly Hills panels draw a really, really large crowd. Like Bravo treats Beverly Hills like the diamond, and I think they do that because the ratings back it up, in addition to the fact that they love the glitz and glam of Beverly Hills. But there's this new dynamic I'm seeing with Housewives fans that I think a lot of it is driven by Salt Lake City. If I had to guess, again, we don't have all of the ratings data available to us, the streaming numbers. I wouldn't be shocked if Salt Lake City is like the second highest rated streaming show. Like I would bet it goes Beverly Hills, Salt Lake City, maybe Potomac and Atlanta battle it out. There's this divide where if you love Salt Lake City, enjoy that, you are probably not going to love and enjoy Beverly Hills. Like the gap between those two shows and just the conflict, the drama, the humor, the amount of activity that you see in the 42 minutes that the show airs, there's such a wide gap. And I talked about this in my series on 2008, where I talk about the fact that Atlanta and New York changed the franchise because it changed the audience perception of what Housewives are. Salt Lake is changing our perception of what a Housewives episode should be, because a Salt Lake episode can have so much chaos in 42 minutes. I mean, it's insane. This season, we saw one episode where the whole episode was one event and they argued the whole time. I don't love that. I didn't love last season of Salt Lake City. I think everything with them is always at level 10 and I need some peaks and valleys. But I am not the typical housewife fan in that regard. I think most fans love Salt Lake City and they love the drama and the chaos that it gives. So I think that there's this issue now where fans have adapted to what Salt Lake City gives and they're frustrated with Beverly Hills. People have been saying for years, oh, Beverly Hills is boring, but I think Salt Lake City is like emphasizing that feeling now because people are comparing it and they're saying, we're getting all of this from Salt Lake City. Like these women are working for their checks and Beverly Hills gives us so little. As someone who watches Housewives and has watched every franchise, I love watching them. I have this expectation that I'll enjoy watching every franchise. And I think I have to let that go. And so do some other viewers need to let go of the idea of I should enjoy every franchise. If you're someone that loves Salt Lake City and that chaos, you have to let go of the idea that I'm going to enjoy Beverly Hills. Like maybe Beverly Hills is no longer for you and it's for a different housewife viewer. And that's just okay. We just have to accept that, because I don't see Beverly Hills ever making drastic changes simply because from what we know, they still get good ratings. So yes, people may drag it online all day long, but people are still tuning in. And that is ultimately how a network decides, is this show successful or not? I definitely feel like we are at this moment in Housewives fandom where these shows have really altered our perception of each other. There's this expectation that there should be some commonality instead of there being this idea that each Housewives franchise is different and has a different vibe and approaches drama and conflict different. I do think a lot of this is converging where people are expecting the same thing with different players in different cities and in a different season, but they're expecting the women to go about things the same way. And we're just never going to get women in Beverly Hills with money and connections to act like the Salt Lake City women. It's never going to happen. In addition to the fact that it's a totally different production company with a totally different approach to the show, Beverly Hills is not a show I laugh at a lot. And when I think about Salt Lake City makes me laugh because the way that the producers and editors approach the show is they insert a lot of humor and they poke fun at the women a lot. And the women sometimes are in on the joke. And it's the way that they cut the scenes, it's the sound effects they do, it's the audio, all of that gives you a humorous show. Beverly Hills lacks that humor. I think it's because the women aren't that funny, but also the production company doesn't approach them in a humorous way. They're not trying to make the audience laugh. If you want to laugh, you need to watch Salt Lake City. Probably can get your laughs from Potomac, but Beverly Hills is not going to make you laugh. And I think collectively, we should accept that about Beverly Hills and just move on because, quite frankly, talking about it when you're unhappy actually only helps the show more. Like the online chatter does not sway the executives from changing the show because networks do care about, does this show drive conversations? And as long as Beverly Hills drives conversations like negative or positive, I don't think the network cares. Now let's get into Beverly Hills because I have actually been enjoying this season. So in the beginning of the season, I made a TikTok about Beverly Hills, some of the issues I think that they're having. And I made this theory that if the ratings go down, we'll see some changes. I don't think the ratings have went down significantly, so I don't think we'll see changes next season. But I've enjoyed this season a lot more. There's a few reasons why. I actually started to enjoy it with the speed dating episode. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I enjoyed it because I liked seeing the women in a different setup where they were uncomfortable. Housewives has become so formulaic where the women are never uncomfortable. The women are not uncomfortable in a dinner scene that leads to a confrontation because they do that all day long. Like that's normal for them. And you can see how Amanda, the newbie, is uncomfortable because this is new for her. So I like the speed dating because it was crazy to see Erica and Dorit and Kyle to be so nervous. They're normally not visibly nervous filming the show this way. And I found that interesting and just exciting to watch. I want to say that there would be no season without Dorit. I have never been the biggest Dorit fan, but I really lost interest in her when she toned herself down. Everyone remembers Dorit's first season. She was a firecracker and she was interesting. Then she became a part of Fox Force 5 and became close friends with Kyle, and she just lost all of her fire. I've enjoyed her this season where she's bringing it back, and I think partially because Dorit knows she needs her check. We all know that Kemsley's money is funny, on top of the fact that I'm sure PK is going to do everything in his power to give as little money to Dorit as possible. So Dorit is clocking in because Dorit needs her check. But I am here for it and I'm enjoying it. The other thing that I'm enjoying about Dorit, I'm a Black woman. I don't like to see Black women attacked by non-Black women on TV. You can say what you want about me. You can think what you want, but I'm sensitive to that. So I was sensitive to the way that Dorit would go after Garcelle that felt unjustified. Beyond the fact that Garcelle did imply the robbery was fake, but before that, Dorit would go after Garcelle, and I didn't like that. So now that Garcelle has left, I had my feelings about her when she left. I'm happy she left for her own self, and she doesn't need this show. I'm able to enjoy this show more because I'm not always feeling irritated when they're going at Garcelle. And I can enjoy Dorit more now because I'm just enjoying her being crazy and catty. I don't really like Dorit anymore than I liked her prior. I find her more entertaining. And if it weren't for Dorit, we'd have no storylines beyond them going after Amanda. Dorit has given us so much material with her personal storyline and also the breakdown with Kyle. We're going to see some stuff now with her and Erica. We see her beefing with Amanda. Dorit is carrying this season, and we're seeing some of the most authenticity we've seen on this show in a long time. Between Dorit and Rachel, we're getting a lot. I appreciate these two women who are going through challenging separations and divorces. I like them dragging their exes. I think that's real. I think that's natural. I know this is a huge disconnect with Dorit and Kyle, where Kyle feels like you shouldn't talk bad about him. And that's true. It may not be the best legal strategy for Dorit to talk about PK, but it's real. It's authentic. You ask any other woman in her spot, she would talk crap about her ex to her friends. Like, that's keeping it real. We know Kyle does not keep it real. We know she clocks in for work the same way Giselle does and she clocks out, but I'm enjoying it. The other thing I'm enjoying that relates to Dorit, I'm enjoying seeing this slow breakdown of Dorit and Kyle's relationship. It feels very authentic to me, and it reminds me of other friendship breakdowns when the friendship was real. So in Housewives, sometimes friendships break down really quickly, and it's 1 or 2 episodes and they become enemies for life. But I think that's not realistic with how we actually go through friendship breakups. I've been through it myself. They're normally like a slow drip. You have these moments where you start disagreeing, you start to argue, you have conflict, you see each other less, but it's not always this one big moment like we see in Housewives. And this also reminds me of Kandi and Phaedra's friendship breakdown. This was a very similar setup where Phaedra was going through a major life change. She was separated from Apollo. She was going through a lot at that time. And you see Kandi and Phaedra's friendship start to deteriorate over time. It wasn't like one big moment where they were done with each other. And so I'm enjoying seeing this dynamic with Dorit and Kyle because it feels authentic to me. It feels like this is the real way that a friendship breaks down over time. But I get people's criticism of Beverly Hills is that things take too long to happen. Things are happening in this season, but they take a long time. You know, we have seen Kyle and Dorit have a few different confrontations, but it's not like you're going to have one big fight in one episode. It drags out over 10 episodes. So I definitely understand why people are saying it's boring, but I've enjoyed it because it feels more authentic and because I did think Dorit and Kyle were good friends. I guess I was the dumb one because Kyle was presenting as if they were never that close. I had a perception they were close. Their families were close. So it's been interesting too for me to kind of take a step back and say, okay, how authentic was this friendship that they were presenting to us? It's been interesting for me to see Kyle, who I think probably always disliked Dorit a little bit and found her annoying, but I think Kyle keeps the peace a lot. And I think she kept the peace because there was benefits to her friendship with Dorit from the show perspective, but also because they were couples friends. Like PK and Mauricio were so close. I think Kyle embraced Dorit more than she would have if their husbands were not friends. And I think now that she doesn't have that weighing over her head, I see the distance and I see the issues that she has with Dorit that she's being very vocal about expressing. However, I think Kyle struggles with where she is with Mauricio. It seems like this season she wants to get back with him, and I think he has no interest. I feel like Kyle is stuck in place and she's being very avoidant about the situation. I feel like Mauricio is ready to call it quits and file for divorce, but Kyle is just waiting around, I guess, for him to change his mind. Whereas Dorit is doing the exact opposite. And I think Kyle just struggles with empathizing with her. I think she struggles with understanding her because Dorit is approaching it so differently. But I have a lot more respect for Dorit than I do for Kyle in this situation because it just feels like Kyle will not accept the reality of Mauricio seems done and it's time for her to move on with her life. So I'm not team anybody in this feud. I have found it interesting to watch. I still don't think Dorit is likable. I would not want to be Dorit's friend, but I'm finding her entertaining as a reality TV star. And she's been way more entertaining this season than Kyle Richards has been this season. And this season for me has highlighted Kyle's place as we move forward. And I am now actually able to see a path forward without her. For a long time, I could not see a reality without Kyle as the center diamond on Beverly Hills, but I can now see a path forward that starts with Rachel. Rachel Zoe has been such a breath of fresh air because she brings this old school mentality of reality TV where she's letting it all hang out. She's showing so much that I feel like most people would shy away from showing. She's talking a lot about her separation and the divorce from Roger. And what I love too, in the most recent episode when they were in Italy, we're seeing things happen in like real time, like with her son and the Roger thing and the ex. It's not that she's telling us about it after it happened. Like we're seeing her take the phone calls. We're seeing her coordinate. We're seeing her talk to her children. I really love that. And it does remind me of old school reality TV that was much less sanitized. And Rachel has an interesting personal storyline that she seems very open to sharing. Her career is interesting, but also what's critical is Rachel's respected by these women. Beverly Hills is a hard show to gain the respect of the cast. You have to come in with money, with stature, some level of fame. And Rachel is probably the first person we've had in quite some time that rivals Kyle Richards in that way, and that the cast respects. Kathy Hilton respects her. Erica respects her. Dorit, Bose, all of them. Rachel could be a great center diamond. I think she would help elevate the show in terms of like what she could showcase, the people she could bring on. But I also think she could bring the show in a new direction in terms of seeing some interesting storylines and dynamics and really calling things out and talking about it. This show for so long has not talked about stuff because Kyle Richards is the center, and that is the environment and culture she creates. These shows oftentimes do reflect their top two housewives, and when it was Kyle Richards, we just got a show that was kind of boring, that avoided topics, that didn't really want to call things out. And I see that we can go in a different direction now with Rachel. I feel like Kyle and Sutton this season are out of place. Like they don't fit anymore. When I think about the show and like the dynamics at work, I think Erica, Rachel, Bose, Dorit, even Amanda, like I think there's a dynamic there that works where Sutton and Kyle feel like they don't fit. They don't fit in the puzzle. Like the vibe isn't right. I can't put my finger on it, but it feels like they are the outliers now in this cast and like they're unnecessary in this cast. And even when I think about Kathy Hilton, Kathy has always been comedic relief, but I feel like Jennifer Tilly does that now, and Kathy has been a non-factor. I don't really need Kathy on this show anymore. I don't really know why she's back. If I were them, I would free up the budget and get rid of Kathy and let Jennifer Tilly be comedic relief. And you could almost keep Jennifer Tilly and not Sutton, because I feel like Jennifer Tilly is less anchored to Sutton. Now she's been introduced to the group. She could stay on as a friend of cast member and it wouldn't feel weird if Sutton was gone. One reason why I feel like Sutton and Kyle don't fit anymore with this core group of like Rachel, Erica, Bose, Dorit, and even Amanda is I feel like their lifestyles are so different. And I also just feel like they don't have any tight relationships with anyone on the cast. So I would love if next season we do see Rachel move more into that center diamond role and we start to deprioritize Kyle's position and her influence on the show. I think that would be so good for the show and that would really help the show elevate, and it could still maintain the glitz, the glamour, the luxury, because I think Rachel would bring that. But you also could bring in some of the interesting stuff, the drama, some of the confrontations, and also get us away from this thing of targeting someone every season. So speaking of targeting, these takedown seasons where one person's on the hot seat are always so boring because we don't get enough conflict. If it weren't for Dorit and Kyle's argument, we wouldn't have any confrontation that did not involve Amanda, because it seems like Amanda's the safe target for everyone, so everyone wants to go after her. Amanda's weird. I get why they don't like her. I don't like how they always want to blame her oddities on being a millennial. I myself am a millennial. We've had other millennial housewives, Crystal on this show, Candace on Potomac, Porsha on Atlanta. Lisa Hochstein is technically on Miami, is technically a millennial. Bronwyn's a millennial. The oldest millennials are 44 years old. So this idea that Amanda is weird because she's a millennial, it's like, that's not it. She's just a weird woman. What does get on my nerves about Amanda is she's so sensitive. I can't stand when women come on this show as if they don't know what they signed up for. I do agree they're going after her unfairly, like they're just looking for things to pick at. But she's such a weird character and she's so sensitive. It's like, girl, you're making it so easy. Like the way that she reacts to things are so odd. Like bringing up her son and the anniversary of his passing, but you're at the dinner party. It's just weird. It's just weird. And it does feel like she came on the show to promote her business and not actually to be like a long-term cast member. I feel like Amanda came on this show for 1 or 2 seasons to elevate her profile, and that's it, which is smart. She knows that the Bravo audience is an audience of women who are the type of women that typically support her work. So I get why she came on the show. But I'm not that sympathetic towards her and how they're treating her, because I feel like she causes her own problems. Like she brings this upon herself, because even when they had that moment at her home and it was like the manifestation workshop event, it doesn't feel like she wants to get to know them. It's like she only wants to push any experience that relates to her business and making her more money. So instead of us getting to know you, you're just showing us another facet of your business. And we don't care about this manifestation business. Like, girl, we're not your target audience. So it just feels like she is here to promote her business and make more money and get more followers. And she's not actually here to be on the show and engage. She doesn't move like someone who plans to be on the show for 5 years. She moves like someone that's here for 1 season and she's done. But overall, we've seen some interesting things this season from Beverly Hills. The slower pace has not bothered me, probably because the personal storylines have been so interesting for me. And I've been really intrigued by seeing the new dynamics. I do enjoy seeing the women be friends. I think that was something that was missing in prior seasons, and other shows sometimes miss that. I like the fact that you do have what seems to be a real friendship, and they seem to actually like each other. When you think about Bose and Dorit, I like the fact that there seems to be some real camaraderie amongst Rachel when it comes to Dorit, with Rachel and Bose, with Rachel and Erica. Like, I like that. I like seeing people who seem like they're friends. I think Bose and Erica actually do like each other. I'm not saying they're best friends, but they seem to actually like each other. I like seeing that. Housewives is supposed to be about friendship and people that come together that actually have things in common and want to spend time together. So I've enjoyed seeing some of that friendship run through, even though we're seeing the breakdown of Dorit and Kyle's friendship at the same time. Okay, let's talk about Real Housewives of Atlanta. So the trailer came out. I don't put a lot of stock into trailers, good or bad. They're not always representative of the season. I'm looking forward to this season. I know a lot of people are critical of this cast and the people that they have casted, like Pinky and K. Michelle. And a lot of the discourse has been the love and hip hopification. Is that a word? Basically turning Atlanta into love and hip hop. I think a lot of that is a little elitist, classist. There's some respectability politics weaved into that. I don't have an issue with this new cast for a few reasons. K. Michelle is an excellent reality TV star. She's endlessly entertaining. I'm looking forward to seeing her on TV. I think she can carry a cast. She's also in a different place in her life than we last saw her on TV. She's married now. I don't know a lot about her current personal life, so I'm looking forward to seeing her. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Angela, who I think will continue to elevate on Real Housewives of Atlanta. I think she has so much potential. She's a great housewife. She's interesting. I think she can also run the cast. I think she could become a center peach really easily. And I'm really excited that it seems like Porsha will not be center peach. So a little bit about my lore. When Porsha joined Real Housewives, I was like 21 or 22. I'm 33 now, so whenever season 5 was. And I was a huge Porsha fan. I loved Porsha. I was really coming into my own as a woman. And so I just thought Porsha was so beautiful and I was so enamored with Porsha. That all changed for me after watching her Porsha Family Matters special. I do not think highly of Porsha. I think she is very manipulative. I think she is deceitful. I do not really enjoy watching her on my screen. I think she is fake. I think she's acting a lot of times. And Porsha cannot carry a cast. I hope that everyone learned that after last season that Porsha is an excellent supporting cast member. She's comedic relief. She's funny. She's entertaining. She's fun. She's not a center housewife. And I hope that the promo, which has Porsha not in the center, is an indication that they recognize that. I hope that this season doesn't center around Porsha the way that it did last season. And this season is more so of a reset as we bring on these new women and see these new dynamics and figure out where all the pieces lie. Having last season center around Porsha was a mistake because she can't carry the show. Porsha does not bring the women together enough. It's similar to a Giselle. Not as messy, but Giselle lacks this quality of bringing people together. She can't bring them together to unify and work through issues. Porsha can't either because Porsha doesn't care. And we were missing a lot of that last season of someone being that guiding force to say, hey, let's work this out. I think Angela stepped in on some of that, and I think she will continue to do that. And that's something that's really important for a center peach, especially on this show, because the best center housewife we've ever had is Nene Leakes. And one thing Nene did is she was going to bring the girls together. She was going to bring people together when they had a confrontation. They was going to work through it. They were going to figure it out. And it wasn't just to have a fight. Nene would bring the girls together in a way where it's like, let's work through this. And we missed that last season because Porsha doesn't give you that. I have some thoughts in my head about how people have responded to the new Atlanta women. An issue I think people have is they can't let go of the peak Atlanta seasons, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 and 8. But those peak seasons when Porsha joined, Kenya joined, Nene was hitting on all cylinders. People need to let that go. That was over 10 years ago, right? Those seasons. People need to let that go. Like that version of Atlanta is never going to come back. And I think a lot of those people who don't like the new direction of Atlanta yearn for people like Nene to come back, but they don't understand that Nene is more aligned with this new cast than Nene is with season 5. Nene is a widow. She is single. Nene is an empty nester. If you look at even who Nene hangs out with, that will give you an indication of where she is in her life. She aligns very well with this new cast. Even one thing about Nene I noticed, a lot of her friends are younger than her. Like this cast is a cast of women I could see Nene hanging out with. So if you're one of those people who are upset about the cast in this new direction, but you're like, we need to go back to the good old days when we had Nene and all of them. It's like, girl, that's not coming back. Even Nene's not that person no more. Porsha's not even that person anymore. And when I think about this season, I do have a theory that Bravo wants Nene to come back. Nene wants to come back. I have watched enough of her interviews lately. Nene wants to be back on Housewives. She is ready to go. I think she's waiting for Bravo to pull the trigger. This is a perfect cast for Nene to come into because I think she will vibe with these women. Her and these women are in similar places in their life. Nene is a single woman. You can't put Nene on a cast full of married women. She's not going to be comfortable. You're not going to get the best version of Nene. So if you look at this cast, I feel like this is the perfect cast for Nene. Nene would thrive in this cast, and I think this will be a great season to set up Nene's return. So if you are someone that yearns for season 5 or 6 Nene, that Nene is gone. She doesn't exist anymore. If you don't like the direction of this new show, don't talk about Nene coming back because Nene is going to vibe with the direction of this new cast. Nene will fit right in with this new cast. Something I'm seeing overall in the housewife fandom, where I myself have watched Housewives for 20 years. I started when I was 13. My mother started watching Housewives too around that time. And we are all now 20 years old. A lot of people are struggling with Housewives evolving. And I think one piece is age. So for my mother, when she started watching Housewives, a lot of the women were around her age. Whereas now, Housewives are younger than her. And something my mom says is that women are too young for her, right? It feels weird for her to watch these women who are 1 to 2 decades younger than her. For me, I went from watching these shows and the women were older than me to now some of these women are my age. And I think a lot of Housewives fans are struggling with adapting to that, the changes that they went through in their life, and then also how they're viewing the cast. And a lot of Housewives fans, they want their relationship to the Housewives to be the same. Where if you grew up watching Housewives who are older than you still want older women, and however you perceive older to be the Housewives, when the reality is that doesn't work. The other thing to think about is TV runs off ad dollars. And advertisers care a lot about the younger demo. Typically, it's the 18 to 34-year-old demo. Bravo has one of the oldest live audiences of any network. So when you think about these shows, I do think Bravo is considering how do we attract our younger audience. And I don't think you're going to attract it with older housewives. If you're trying to attract more Gen Z viewers and eventually Gen Alpha, are they going to tune in to watch older women, or will they tune in to watch women in their 30s, 40s, hell, maybe even 20s? Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is another great example of the art of the possible. And I wouldn't be shocked if Bravo is not taking notes. That show has been a smash hit. And those women are in their 20s and their 30s. Those women are very, very young, and it has been a very popular show. And it shows you that you can do a Housewives-esque show with young women and it be successful. I'd have to think that Bravo is thinking about that, and they're thinking about how do we lower the average age of our housewives. I think Rhode Island is a great example. Rhode Island has one woman in her 50s, but most of that cast is in their 30s, with some who are even like 31 or 32. This is on average a young cast. I think that's by design. I think they're looking at how do we attract younger viewers, and it starts with younger housewives. Another related but not related criticism I have of some Housewives viewers is this idea that housewives need to literally be a housewife. I hate that the name of this franchise is Real Housewives because it implies you need to be married and have children, but that is very archaic. Obviously, that was the case when the show premiered in 2006, but we have moved past that. And going back to the argument of Bravo probably wants to prioritize younger viewers, women view marriage and children differently today than they did 20 years ago. And this is especially true for Gen Z, who is probably one of the key demos that Bravo wants to attract. I don't think they're as keen on every woman on the show being married with children. I think they're interested in seeing shows about women and the dynamics and the friendships. But I don't think that new viewers, younger women, are so focused on these women must be married with children. I think it's a very outdated concept that the best housewives have to come with that, and we should not be casting all of these single women. I think the name Real Housewife has become an albatross around this franchise's neck, because they have to constantly justify the woman that they're casting and the fact that they're not actually real housewives, which is frustrating. When this show has moved so far beyond talking about marriage and children, like I said in my series that covered like 2008 and how the franchise changed, the first few seasons of Orange County were all about women being married with children and their home life and being homemakers. That's not what the show's about anymore. This show is fundamentally a show about women and their friendships and their dynamics and the highs and lows of their life. You don't need to be married to be a part of the show. You don't need to have children to be a part of the show. Some of the best Housewives seasons were with single women, especially the RHONY seasons, the golden years, like season 7 through 11. Those women were mostly unmarried. Most of them were single and unpartnered. This idea, oh, these women need to be married, is just so outdated and is not going to lead us to having the best Housewives shows. But I just think that it comes from so many people who watch Housewives, similar to me, have watched it for years. And so we are very tied to the concept of what Housewives was when we started watching. And I think some viewers are struggling to adapt to the changes of Real Housewives. And my prediction as we move forward is that Bravo will continue to age down their cast. Bravo will continue to cast younger and younger women, and you're going to slowly see the average age of a housewife decrease. Another thing I've been thinking about is, how does Bravo view the success of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives? I do think the age and the youth of that cast is probably giving Bravo some ideas about the ages of their Housewives cast. But in terms of the women being influencers, so Amanda came on Beverly Hills. She's somewhat of an influencer. K. Michelle's joining Atlanta. She's already a celebrity. Pinky is well known. And I think people have been very resistant to this on Housewives, that influencers joining. But I believe Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, part of why it's been such a hit is these women came in with millions of followers. They already had people who enjoyed watching them live their life online and were very eager to tune in to watch them do the same thing on their TV screen for an hour. And so I do wonder if Bravo is going to start casting more influencers, especially younger influencers, mommy influencers, and see how that will give them somewhat of a built-in audience. It would definitely help Real Housewives ratings if they continue for new shows or new seasons to cast these women who already have millions of followers and this built-in audience. And I have to wonder if that is something we're going to see Bravo start to do, because the success of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives has been transformative in this reality TV space. Let's talk about Marlo and Tyler Perry. Okay, so I don't know why this story interests me so much, but Marlo and Tyler Perry, this whole thing started a few days ago where there's rumors they were dating. There were photos that came out of them at this gospel brunch. I want to call out that the photo of them kissing is AI. The other photos seem to be real, and they're on their own Getty Images. So they're at this gospel brunch. Jason Lee was there. Jason Lee brought Tyler Perry as his guest. Now, Tyler and hanging out with Jason Lee, I feel the same way about Rihanna. I don't understand why Rihanna is so friendly with Jason Lee. He has a horrible reputation, but low key, if the allegations about Tyler are true, Jason and Tyler got some things in common. They got some similar tendencies with aggression towards men who are unwilling, allegedly. Them being friends is a bad look for Tyler, but it also clicks for me a little bit. But anyways, Jason invites Tyler to this gospel brunch. Marlo is there. Now, the AI photo is fake, but here's what confused me and why I thought, are they really dating? In these videos that people post on Instagram that are not AI, these are videos from people that were there, Marlo is all hugged up on Tyler. Like, she grabbing his arm. They look like a couple to me. Like, it looks very coupley. I don't think they're dating, because Lauren, who is on the Breakfast Club, she said that she has sources that says they're not dating. But it makes me think that Marlo wanted people to think they're dating, hence why she's all over him and hugged up with him. It's weird. It's weird that she's acting that way and she's all up on his body if they're not actually dating, but I don't think they're dating. And then this is the other thing. On Marlo's Instagram, Marlo posted photos from that day and she's sitting on another man's lap. So I'm just like, who is this man's lap her sitting on? I'm confused. But if Marlo and Tyler Perry were dating, that would be the perfect man for Marlo. Because I think Marlo always liked to go older with the men she dated because they have less expectations in the bedroom. And if what people say about Tyler is true, he gonna have zero expectations of Marlo in the bedroom. And he has money. I think that will be the perfect partner for Marlo. If she was with Tyler, I would be a little happy for Marlo. Like, that would be ideal for her. So I don't think Marlo and Tyler are dating. I think Marlo is a stunt queen who wanted people to think they're dating. I wouldn't be shocked if Marlo put the AI photos out herself. But I think Marlo and Tyler, they would fulfill each other's needs. Marlo would do her job well. Tyler would sign the checks the way that Marlo likes, and I think they have the same expectations of each other, that I think they'd be a perfect match. But I don't really think they were dating. But I will say the whole story has been very interesting to me, because if Marlo got to snag Tyler in any capacity, I'd have to give her tens. Like, I have to give her credit in terms of being a good sugar baby. Like, I would have to give her tens if she got Tyler, because Tyler, and if he publicly claimed her, that would elevate Marlo so much. Not just his money, but the access she'd get, the elevation, the rooms that she'd get to be in would be crazy. But speaking of Marlo, seeing her just reminds me of how bad of a housewife she was and how sad that was. Marlo was one of the best friends of in Real Housewives history. Probably top 5 friend of. Marlo came in season 4. And what Marlo gave us as a friend of season after season was so good. So many memorable moments. It sucked that she came in as a housewife and was such a bad and weird housewife. But Marlo as a friend, I will never forget the season 4 reunion. It was that reunion. I think they were all wearing red. When Marlo exposed Kandi for dating Todd and called her a sugar daddy. Reunions now oftentimes have bombs dropped, but at the time of this reunion, it was very uncommon for women to come in and spill each other's tea that we hadn't already seen on the show. We had not seen Kandi with Todd on the show. We didn't know she was taking care of no man, allegedly, on the show. So when Marlo came in and dropped this tea, I remember being like, oh my God. That was one of the first reunion moments that gagged me, where another woman was sharing something about another woman that we had not seen yet on the show. I'll never forget that moment. So Marlo, friend of, great, horrible housewife. This was a pretty random list of topics for me to cover. These were just things like top of mind for me. I've had so many random housewives takes I wanted to get off my chest, but it wasn't worth doing a whole 30-minute video about one topic or one show. And really the last few weeks on a personal level have been pretty crazy for me. One of my best friends got detained by ICE. He was detained mid-February, and he was just released a few weeks ago. So he was detained for about 4 weeks. And there was a group of us who were really dedicated to working to get him released and get him justice through the legal system. So that took a lot out of me the last few weeks. I really have not watched as much TV. I haven't enjoyed watching TV. I haven't enjoyed making videos. I've kind of done it out of like obligation, because that has really weighed heavy on my heart. He's a well-known gamer. Before this, I had no idea my best friend was such a well-known gamer and well-respected. So his story got a lot of attention and it was covered in a lot of the media, which was great. And he was released like a week or two ago, and I was able to see him last weekend. So that, I feel like a weight has lifted off my shoulders, because him being released was like step one, but he lives in a different city than me. I live in Philly. He's in Maryland. So I didn't get to see him when he got released immediately. Being able to see him and see that like he's okay and just how he's doing, and look at him and hug him and touch him, I feel a lot less stressed and anxious. I do feel like I can breathe again, and I'm back to enjoying some of my mundane day-to-day things, like watching these TV shows and talking about them. But this experience with him being detained, I already was against what this administration was doing, but it has really radicalized me, having a close loved one go through this and seeing what they put him through. The fact that he was detained, we had a habeas filed and he shouldn't have been moved. They moved my friend from Maryland to Louisiana, and then they moved him from there to Georgia. And he wasn't supposed to even have left the state of Maryland. The way that they put so many things in your way to complicate the legal process, they moved him for multiple reasons. One is whenever you move someone, they have to get a new lawyer. Lawyers are expensive. It complicates the legal process. It's so much harder for you to fight for your freedom when they move you from state to state. But also when they move people so much in detainment, you build connections when you're detained. You get to know the people you're detained with. And when they move you, you lose that and you have to start all over. So it really breaks your spirit. And it also increases this fear of deportation. Seeing how they do things, seeing the way that they do things improperly against judges' orders has really radicalized me in a way that I didn't know was possible. I didn't know it was possible to be this angry at what was happening. So I'm happy he's released. If you want to follow his story, you can follow some of the news articles, and I'm going to link the GoFundMe. But really the next step is he has a hearing in May that is focused on if he can get asylum or not. My friend's from Cameroon. He is a gay man. They do discriminate against gay people in Cameroon. He does have a fear of violence or prosecution if he is returned to Cameroon. He has been in Maryland since he was a teenager. This is a home that he knows. This is where he grew up. My friend is one of the nicest, kindest, sweetest people you'll ever meet. And because of that, he has a lot of friends. My friend has more friends probably than most people. He has a large community. When it came to working on his case, getting him a lawyer, getting him freed, there was like 20 of us. He has 20 close friends. We were all pretty dedicated to this for 4 weeks until he was released. The group of 20 of us spent a lot of our time doing things we needed to do as much as we can. We did a lot of the stuff the lawyers normally do, but we did it ourselves because we had a community to do it, but also it saves money, right? Lawyers are expensive. There's an ICE tracker that tracks people's location. We had a system where the group of us, someone was assigned to every hour of the day, except from like maybe 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. to check his location, because we had to make sure he wasn't moved without us knowing. When he was moved from Maryland to Louisiana, we did not know for some time. When he was moved from Louisiana to Georgia, we did not know. So you lose track of him. So we're thinking, is he deported? Where is he? What's happening? So we literally had to take shifts of checking the ICE tracker to make sure he's not moved, because they're supposed to notify the lawyers, but they weren't. The reality is it took all of that. It took 20 people working for 4 weeks to get him released. It has taken a lot of money to go through this legal process. And he ended up raising over $100,000 in his GoFundMe because he's so well known and beloved. And the sad reality is most people ICE detains do not have that. They don't have that community. They don't have the money to be raised. Their stories are not covered in the media. My friend had multiple media stories and multiple reporters covering his story that helped increase awareness and help put pressure on the government. So I hate the reality that that is not true for most people. Like, most people will continue to be detained in horrific, disgusting conditions. And the fight is not over. He has an application for asylum. He has a hearing in May. But all I can do is be hopeful and be faithful that that will go in his favor. But if you want to support, like, definitely you can feel free to support my friend. But I would more so encourage you to support other people who are going through this and need to raise money through GoFundMe. Again, my friend raised over $100,000, which is such an anomaly. It's because he's such a well-known gamer and he has such an outpouring of donations. But there's so many other people in ICE detention that need support and need monetary donations that aren't getting it. So I definitely encourage you to support any local community groups you have that are doing this work to free people from ICE detention, or find other GoFundMes that support people's bond or lawyer fees, anything you can do to help, because there's so many people who are there solely because they cannot afford to have a good lawyer to fight for them. If you're on the fence about this, if you don't think what's happening is not that bad, I assure you it is that bad. And I pray that you never have someone personally affected or you yourself are personally affected, because it will change you and it's going to change anyone that has to go through that process and is detained by ICE. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and follow me on TikTok. I have the exact same name there. What I'm planning for my next video will be something on Married to Medicine. This video started because I wanted to talk about a very specific Married to Medicine moment that lives rent-free in my head that I have a different perspective on now years later. It has turned into a video about the marriages on Married to Medicine and how bad the marriages are. That is my next video. I'm still researching. I have to go back and essentially rewatch seasons to finish the video. So I'm researching, which means me rewatching seasons. But yes, my next video will be Married to Medicine. We don't talk about Married to Medicine enough. I feel very inspired to talk about it because it's just been on my mind. So that video will be coming soon.